Well, it's March the 1st, a new month, and of course the big news from yesterday, of course, is the CPAC meeting and basically the speech of former President Donald Trump. And I think that was a very well-received speech among the base of the Republican Party. And there's a lot to say about this subject and what might be going forward politically due to this. Again, just remember to subscribe to this channel if you're interested in getting it, and you can click the bell to get updates and notifications. So, anyway, going forward, yeah, I think he gave a very good speech. Probably one of his. It's a kind of a mixture of what traditional Trump from the campaign trail with a lot of more focused new issues, which I think reflect a really good grasp of the current situation and issues. A lot of a scathing rebuke to the new Biden administration and its very negative policies that have been implemented so far. Particularly, it's actually fomenting a immigration crisis on the border, which really didn't exist until he got in office, although it was always an ongoing issue. But I mean, it's accelerating, and it'll accelerate a lot further, I think, as weather gets better. So, and with no real plan to how to stop it, and ending of the construction of the wall and so forth, that's kind of, it's bound to get worse. On the whole, I guess the real issue is he was a lot of hints. Would he run in 2024, in which he was kind of non-committal, and he keep putting in, I wonder who that will be. And in fact, that is an interesting issue. Perhaps that indicates right now that he is undecided about that himself. And I think one issue he should face is two possibilities. One is, of course, does he really want to go through that? I mean, he's going to be 78 years old by the time the campaign would actually start in earnest with the convention and not so much the primary campaign, which I would tend to think would be kind of a cakewalk for him if he decides to run. If he announces early in 2023 that he's going to run for president, the problem is the best contenders are either him or people who pretty much would be otherwise probably vying to be his vice presidential pick, or people who just want to wait to 2028 figuring they'd have a clean field. I don't think that somebody like DeSantis wants to actually take on Trump in a primary. I mean, I don't think that would be good for his political career, and I don't think that's what he would do. And so I think that's sort of, and the same, even more so for Kristi Noem and other contenders are so far down the preferability list that I mean, Ted Cruz or, wouldn't have a whole lot of chance going head to head against Trump, I don't think. And so basically, he might be interested again of vice presidential, or I don't know what his actual career plan is at this point. I mean, but so I think that essentially that kind of lets that up. But I do think he really hit a lot of good issues. And one of the ones I really do think this whole transgender issue of putting biological males into women's sports, I think is a major issue that we need to push. And I think it's a wedge issue that might bring back some of these suburban females that defected because of Trump's personality. Because this is going to actually affect their daughters' sports programs. I mean, if they're a soccer mom and the star soccer player is this guy and or whatever, you know what I mean? I think that might actually be an interesting wedge issue to pull some of the centrists back to our side. And so that's he's hitting on that, which is important. And the illegal immigration issue, I think, is still be a big thing. It's not very popular, and obviously it really should be a vote getter among the African American community and even a lot of the legal Latino communities. Because after all, whose job are these illegals going to take? It's probably not going to be suburban college educated white people. It's probably not going to be their job. It's probably going to be somebody in the working class of the minority communities that's going to be replaced by an illegal alien. So I think that's an issue that should effectively help them outreach efforts if it's conducted properly. So now the other issue, of course, he did at the end got in particularly to this whole battle over the election and all that. And there was a straw poll where only 55%, when he was included with everybody else, picked him as their preferred nominee. And DeSantis came in a strong second. Now, of course, remember this was held in Florida, so that could be part of the impact. But I think the issue I've had about that myself is I'm not, well, I mean, I did vote for Trump both times, and I support him, but I also realize that he would have a hard time winning. I mean, the well has been heavily poisoned against him. Let's put it that way. Anyway, without getting into who's to blame, or is it just the left that's to blame, or is it his own the activities? That doesn't really matter a whole lot. Of course, one thing, since he's been permanently banned from Twitter, maybe the whole issue of the Twitter effect, which supposedly riled so many people, won't be in effect because he won't presumably be on Twitter. And so far, he hasn't joined any of the other sites. I now understand that the Parler is back online. I logged in yesterday, and I was able to log in, but was unable to post anything. So it looks to me like it's not fully online yet, but he hasn't joined it yet either. So like I said, there's maybe he will get back to a social media platform and start, making comments off the cuff again. I don't know. But the point I'm getting to is that, what I see is probably the best bet for Trump would be to become kind of the kingmaker of the party, if you want to call it that, rather than the actual candidate. That is to say that, to promote people in Senate and House races and sort of control the agenda, control the platform, and maybe actually anoint somebody like a DeSantis as his heir apparent, so to speak. Therefore, you'd have somebody that kind of has a different image and style while at the same time carrying forward the bulk of the Trump policies. And that might be the most successful of all things. And also, he wouldn't have to try to serve as president until the age of 82. I mean, I think the age factor should also be taken into account, particularly considering that the previous experience with age and the American people are going to get is Biden, who's consistently failing. And while we can hope that Trump will be in a lot better shape by 2024 or 2026 than Biden is now, it's still, there may be an age effect, I think, that might end up being negative there. I mean, but on the other hand, I do believe that the nomination's probably his for the taking if he wants it. The other thing that point out is and this is key at the point, is he rejected the idea of forming a third party, which I'm all highly applauding that. I don't think that creating a new party in our constitutional system is very useful. It's only useful to the opponents of the party that is being defected from. In other words, if he were to create a third party, that's like guaranteeing the Democrats win. And on the other hand, if the Democrats were to have a splinter party, some kind of hardcore Marxist party or something, were to break out on the left, that would probably hurt their chances. If you were to have a successful third party, it would be some kind of milquetoast, right down the middle ideological party, which tried to cherry pick issues from both sides in some kind of way, or taking moderate positions on each of the major controversial issues. I don't know if something like that would really be viable. I mean, somehow it would probably look opportunist ultimately. To give you an example of what I'm trying to say is, suppose that they were more serious about fiscal responsibility, but they still like social programs. They were for constitutional carry, but only handguns with no more than 10 rounds in the magazine. They're pro-life, but absolute ban all abortions beyond the first trimester. Or, something of that sort. I don't know. Would a party of that sort have any play? That's not my position. I'm just trying to illustrate what a down the middle thing might be. And I'm saying I think that might look so opportunist and really tick off both sides more than it would gain supporters. That's sort of my thought. So, and of course, I'm on the right, so obviously something like these magazine limit things and gun control is an anathema to me. So, but you know what I'm saying. I don't know whether it's something of that sort. I think that would be a flop, in my own opinion, unless maybe it was well financed and they had a charismatic figure and the other two candidates were really bad or something. So, okay, I don't want to get off too much on that. Just to illustrate the idea that third parties, I think, are a bad idea, and particularly for the Republicans and conservatives, a very bad idea. And Trump has clearly taken the same position I'm taking. And I think he realizes if he wants to run for president, his best bet is to run as a Republican. And I think his best bet to have influence is to promote the Republican Party and promote those individuals in the party that are consistent with his policies. One of the problems we have is that there's several people that are not that inconsistent with his policies that simply don't like him and attack him personally, leading for him to counterattack them. And it all ends up being mostly personality. I mean, and so I think somebody like Ben Sasse, I think, is a pretty conservative guy, really. But he absolutely despises Trump. And I don't know why he wants to get in that personality contest. I don't know how he thinks that furthers his own political career or anything good for the country, but that's what he does. I mean, Jeff Flake managed to actually destroy his own career over that sort of thing. And the same is almost sort of true of Romney, So, or you do have other people like Collins and Murkowski who really do have more ideological differences, I'd say. But anyhow, but then he gets into the end about, of course, on the election itself, and my general view is on the election is that he did get cheated. But I don't think he got cheated by the magnitude that he thinks he did. I don't believe it was some kind of machine vote flipping throughout the country that somehow led to it. Now, he throws out interesting statistics like that he got more votes than all the Republican candidates that won their race, all the Republican candidates combined or something like that. Well, yes, at first glance that seems like that meant that something went wrong for him. But when you think about it, on the other hand, a lot of the Democrat candidates for the Congress won in overwhelming majorities in their, urbanized districts. I mean, when I lived in another state a few years ago, I was in a district with, which had been, I got redistricted, if you will, from the one I had been in into one that was contained the, I guess it'd be the west side of Atlanta, as well as some of the suburban area to northwest of Atlanta. And in that environment, the Democrat was winning 2-1. And in a lot of cases where the Republicans are winning, they're not always that big. Maybe in Alabama or some place of that sort, you'll have districts like that, or maybe Mississippi or whatever, or certain districts. But increasingly, you're seeing Republicans winning with something in the 50s, and the Democrats winning in something way, way higher. And so you add up all the cumulative votes in those districts, and I don't think that necessarily meant that Trump won the popular vote or came anywhere close to it. In fact, I think he didn't. I think he lost it by over 4%. But I do think that that on the other hand, if you had what I call an omniscient or God's eye view of the vote, and only legal votes are counted and illegal votes are somehow, thrown out, I think that he would have won the electoral vote and won the election. I think he'd have definitely won Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, and probably Pennsylvania. I think he would have actually lost Michigan. That's my personal assessment, looking at the numbers. And there's Peter Navarro has done some excellent studies on this from a realistic point of view, not the crack and nonsense, but actual realistic analysis, and shows about dealing with the thing of questionable voters, people that were registered in 2 states and voted in the primary, and all those kind of things. Now, even there, you have to reduce that number significantly, because some of those people may have moved to another state for a while, registered there, voted there, then came back. You'd have to actually show that they voted in both states, or that they actually were residing in the alternative state. But so I would say, you cut those Peter Navarro numbers down significantly, but you still have enough to give Trump the margin he would need. But the point is, he seems to be treating this like this was some landslide that was stolen, which is not the case. I think a narrow victory was probably taken, and I think there's a real case for rigorous election security issues, and I hope that the states go forward with that, and hopefully we can block that horrible H.R. 1 bill that Nancy Pelosi has, but which is designed just to elect Democrats and create a permanent Democrat majority. But but to be realistic, I think that Trump has to face the possibility that if he ran again after exerting himself that hard at the age of 78, he would actually end up losing again. And I don't know if he wants to do that. What we don't know is to what degree Trump really believes everything he's saying about this or not. People are tending to start to believe he really does believe what he's saying about this, though. And so, but anyhow, that's kind of my view on that. But like I say, if Trump actually gets the nomination, I'll definitely be voting for him, and probably be voting for him even in the primary, because I honestly think that the only people that would really challenge him if he really runs are probably people to the center of the party. Maybe a Romney type person or somebody like that. And maybe it'll just even be nominal. I mean, one of those kind of things that, incumbent presidents and stuff, Bush in 2004, no real challenge in the primary, what I mean? So I think that's the situation there. So we'll just have to see what he decides to do, and that's going to be the other issue, is what condition he's going to be in by that time, because the Democrats are laying for him with a bunch of actions, lawsuits. I don't know whether they're going to actually try to spring a criminal charge or not. The New York state level stuff is brewing out there, and we don't know how that's. One would hope that there's no real problem. After all, they do have his tax returns, but remember, those have been highly audited by the IRS for years. And it seems to me if there's anything in there, they could have thrown something out in 2015 or early 2016 to try to derail his campaign, and it didn't happen. And I would tend to think that, seeing how the IRS treated the Tea Party people, I would think they would have gladly treated him to the same thing. So, again, that's why I'm kind of hopeful he's really in pretty good shape there, really. But then again, if you have an unfair prosecutor and an unfair judge and an unfair jury, some bad things can happen. So, anyway, that kind of sums up. But I thought it was a fairly inspirational speech. I think it was I certainly enjoyed hearing him again, and I think he really does. I think he does have a very key role, though, to play, regardless of whether he runs or not, is to leave out the potential he might run and try to keep the party from going mushy on us. And that is the main thing that I think we need to have him do for the immediate future. So anyway, that's my thoughts for today. All for now.